Hello, everyone. Glad you are all able to join on day one of OCP Tech Week, uh, where we plan to give a quick update to the community on all the activities which OCP Incubation Committee has been working on over last 1 year. I'm Dharmesh Jani, and I'm the co-chair, and along with my colleagues, we will go through the update for all of you. So with that, let's get started. So the first thing we wanted to share with all of you is how the OCP incubation committee role has evolved over the last 1 year, uh, from 2019 to 2020. You might be wondering, what was the motivation behind that? And what we found was that most of the IC members who were elected wanted to contribute more to the community. They wanted to go beyond the usual work of voting. They wanted to define new directions. So with that motivation in mind, we basically decided to come up with set of roles and responsibilities which encourage broader participation within the community, which allows more proactive approach to deciding what technologies community should work on, and also figure out a way to not only then take that roadmap, but also help translate into then actual work streams, which can be then passed on to the project leads where it makes sense. So with those motivations in mind, we kind of embarked on that plan. And going forward, our mission is always going to be focused on helping community figure out what are the most pressing common problems which we need to collectively come and work on. So just to kind of quickly summarize, we are always looking at industry problem sets, which we want to take care of. We want to find a way to do solution discovery for all of these problems, working with the community. And then through the process of collaboratively working with other IC members and the volunteering leadership, we want to crystallize and define the roadmap for next 1 year. And then at the end of it all, we also work on trying to influence the OCP board. So let me give you a quick view of what the OCP structure looks like. I mentioned OCP board. So OCP board is at the highest level, and OCP foundation staff basically works very closely with the board. Incubation committee, where we come in, is basically working very closely with the foundation staff as well as the project leads to basically put our mission in practice. We are group of 11 individuals, and we represent various project streams within the community, where it could be a networking person or a storage person, or it could be a server, so on and so forth. So these collection of individuals meet on regular basis to basically look at all the ways in which we can build OCP momentum forward for doing more for the community. And in terms of the specific tasks which we take on, we look at the strategy to identify industry problems, as I mentioned. We look at the execution piece, where we are looking at soft roadmap definition through voting process, through process of collecting data across all the projects and working with all the community members and the companies. And then last but not least, we work in the fashion as we are doing right now to give a readout of the activities which we take on for the community. So this particular, next 30 minutes, what you'll hear from all the IC members is going to be our readout to the community on the activities which we have worked on. So last 1 year, what did we do in terms of looking at the problem statements? We went through a set of, collection of problems which everybody thought were important. And then we went through an ordering through a voting process, which resulted into these top 4 problem areas related to common platforms, modularization, platform security, and then common profiles across all of the OCP platforms as the top 4 problems which bubbled up. And then we basically spawned off work streams to go and address each of these problem sets. So to give you a deeper insight into the actual activities which have been done in each of these work streams, it's my pleasure to have Jessica, who is my colleague and a OCP co-chair, to come and talk further about what exactly have we achieved in each of these 4 areas. So with that, I'll like to hand it off to Jessica. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, DJ. So, hi everyone. My name is Jessica Goldbrand, and I'm co-chairing the incubation committee together with DJ and Jeff. So, getting into the strategic initiatives, the 4 different strategic initiatives, as DJ mentioned before. The first one there is the common platforms. And this initiative is led by Steve Mills from Facebook. In common platforms, the goal is to encourage early community involvement and reuse of OCP products instead of generating new products if new ones are not needed, right? The idea is to incorporate existing OCP specifications into new contributions. A lot of work has already been done by the OCP community, and by creating a method to communicate really the breadth of the work already created by the community that impact a particular contribution, there is no need really to recreate something that already exists. And that's what we want to make sure through the common platforms. So the focus group developed a matrix of OCP specification requirements by product type that defines the expected OCP specification, with the goal of introducing and using this for all specification contributions starting in 2021. What this means is that a new specification is contributed to OCP. There will be a checklist of requirements that needs to be adhered to before the specification can be contributed. This matrix was approved by the incubation committee in October of this year. And the next step is really to communicate these changes to the OCP community. And that is something that is happening today. At 10:30 to 10:45 a.m., Steve will be giving a presentation on the new criteria for contribution acceptance. So please make sure that you're attending that to learn more about it. And that takes us to the second initiative, that's modularization, which is led by Zhang Ning from Facebook. And if you look at common platforms of not wanting to introduce a new platform form factor, but reusing what already exists, modularization is basically the same thing, but looking within the IT equipment. So for modularization, the goal is really to break the silos across different communities within OCP and also the industry to increase reuse of modules and avoid reinventing new ones. The idea is to create a modularization map covering both inside and outside of OCP. And this is what's shown here on the right-hand side of this slide to give you a little bit of an overview of what that could look like, of modules that exist within OCP and also modules that exist outside of OCP. A couple of examples of these type of modules identified on this map are memory modules, as well as high and low power accelerators. The mapping work is ongoing with the goal of generating a more comprehensive mapping and identifying structured categories to make it easy to use. So the next steps here is to continue with the mapping, as previously mentioned, and also work with other projects and industry standard bodies that are interested in modularization through communication and education. And if you want to learn more about modules, please attend the server track, which will be held on November 10th. This takes us to the third initiative of platform security, which is led by Elaine Palmer from IBM. The goal here is to define interoperability and security requirements that enable server platforms to monitor compliance of subsystems, devices, and firmware to expected configurations. So far, the OCP security project documents have been generated for devices, and the plan is to extend those documents to encompass also the platform-specific requirements. The initiative and security project will also collaborate with other groups that are working on related standards. And to give a couple of examples here, it's a Trusted Computing Group, as well as DMTF, which is the Distributed Management Task Force. The ongoing work is on security checklist and badging requirements for devices. And the requirements from this document will be incorporated into the matrix previously discussed in the Common Platforms Strategic Initiative in order to generate that checklist that talked about previously. And the next steps are to present and gain the incubation committee's approval on the 5 different documents: the security checklist and badges, common security threads, attestation, secure boot, and recovery. And you can find all of these projects on the security projects wiki page. And the security tracks, so I encourage you to listen into the security track, which will be holding their sessions on November 12th. And last but not least of the 4 initiatives is the Common Profiles, which is led by John Leung from Intel. The goal here is to create a common hardware management profile that can be used across components in the data center. And the way to do that is to develop an OCP baseline hardware management, which is based upon Redfish profile, that each platform design specification will reference and use. And that's what's shown here in the sketch to the right. So it's really that baseline profile that's generating the foundation. And then the idea is to have each platform extend this baseline profile to their specific manageability needs. The status of this is that the OCP baseline hardware management specification has been developed and also incorporated as a requirement into the Common Platforms matrix. Really the server profiles has been drafted. So again, as we said, we generate different profiles for each platform depending upon what their requirements are. So the server profiles have been drafted, while the rack manager, the Open RMC profile, was approved in October of this year. The next step is the approval of the baseline and server profiles by the incubation committee. And John will be holding a presentation or giving a presentation on November 10th between 9 and 9:45 that will talk more about this in depth, and it's called OCP Profiles for Platform Manageability. And you can also find these particular specifications within the hardware management spec and designs page. So with that, thank you for your time, and I would like to hand off to Jeff, who will be talking about strategic partnerships.
All right. Thank you, Jessica, and hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Catlin, and I'm one of the 3 Incubation Committee co-chairs, and today I'd like to give a brief overview of partnerships that Open Compute has in the industry and an update on new projects within Open Compute. Open Compute has many partnerships with other open communities and also industry standards organizations. These partnerships can either be formal or informal in nature. A formal partnership has a written agreement in place stating the liaisons between the 2 organizations and calling out the gives and the gets from each partner. Informal partnerships are driven by individuals from each community working together to accomplish common goals and projects. A quick look at formal partnerships. First up, we have the Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS. This group was originally founded back in 1962 at Georgetown University, and their purpose is to define the future of national security, with one of their focus areas being technology and cybersecurity. Open Compute partners with CSIS to facilitate collaboration relating to cloud security between 2 existing organizations. Next up, we have the Telecom Infra Project, or TIP. TIP was formed in 2016 with the goal to connect the world's unconnected users to the internet, and doing this by accelerating open disaggregated solutions. KIP has many project groups covering a wide range of technologies, including optical transport solutions, open RAN and cellular solutions, as well as cell site gateways and aggregation routers. KIP and the Open Compute Telco project actually share common hardware design contributions between both organizations. And finally, we have the Open Networking Foundation, or ONF. ONF started back in 2011 and is an operator-led consortium, meaning that the board of ONF and therefore the overall ONF direction is driven by telecommunication carriers, which are partner members. ONF focuses on open source SDN software solutions for access and edge networks, including broadband, mobile, and edge cloud. ONF produces reference designs or blueprints of combined components that form a deployable solution. These reference designs leverage disaggregation and open hardware solutions from Open Compute. And now a few informal partnerships. Up first, we have the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning, ASHRAE. An interesting point here with the roots of this group is it dates back to 1894, when it was just the American Society of Heating and Air Conditioning, no refrigeration at that point. That's over 125 years worth of experience and knowledge. I think that's quite impressive. But within OCP, the Advanced Cooling Solution projects are building on what ASHRAE has already established, and it is part of the foundation of this Open Compute effort. Today, the two organizations are complementing each other, and in the future, we are aiming at building stronger collaboration. Next up, we have the Linux Foundation that I'm sure you've all heard of. The Linux Foundation, which was founded in 2000, has over 150 projects and is dedicated to building sustainable ecosystems around open source projects to accelerate technology deployment and industry adoption. There is a collaboration with Open Compute on many projects under the Linux Foundation, such as OpenBMC, free-range routing, and of course, Linux. Finally, we have the Open Data Center Committee, or ODCC, which was officially formed in 2014 and is an industry-led nonprofit consortium formed by China's leading technology providers, including Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, and the telecom carriers China Telecom and China Mobile. There are similar projects in ODCC as compared to Open Compute, such as a server project, data center, network, testing, and certification projects. And we continue to monitor and collaborate with ODCC. Now an update on projects within Open Compute, but first a brief overview of the project types. So a project in Open Compute could be a top-level project if it's unique in charter and not related to an existing project. Top-level project establishment requires OCP board approval in addition to the approval of the incubation committee. Each top-level project has a dedicated representative that sits on the Open Compute incubation committee. A project can be a sub-project if the purpose and outcome is related to an existing top-level project. Sub-projects require only IC approval for establishment, but do not have a dedicated incubation committee representative. Both types of projects can either be in the incubation phase when they are newly formed and gaining participants, or a project can be in the impact phase when a healthy mix of consumers, suppliers, and technology is available within the project. Here's a look at the overall active Open Compute projects listed here in no particular order. And as you can see, there are currently 10 top-level projects ranging from compute to networking, telco, facilities, and everything in between. Under the 10 top-level projects, there are currently 19 active sub-projects. So certainly with 29 active projects ongoing, there's something for everyone and their interests within OCP. And now in the remaining slides here, we'll take a look at some of the newest projects within Open Compute. So first up is the Time Appliance Project, or TAP. So this is a newly formed top-level project focusing on data center applications and infrastructure, which will greatly benefit from highly accurate, reliable, and scalable distribution and synchronization of time. The TAP group will be highly collaborative with other OCP working groups and help define IEEE 1588 PTP profiles to meet use case needs. Next up are a few newly formed sub-level projects. First, we have the Advanced Cooling Facilities Project. This is a sub-project under the Data Center Facilities Project and collaborates on the integration of advanced cooling solutions into data center facilities through liquid distribution. This project delivers solutions, guidance, and reference designs that enable advanced cooling solutions to be deployed in both new and existing data centers. Next is the Hardware Fault Management Group. And this is a sub-project under hardware management and focus on standardizing system behavior under hardware failures. The project is specifying the requirements, processes, and mechanisms for managing hardware faults for large-scale data centers. And finally, the Hardware Management Module Project, which is also a sub-project under hardware management, and focused on defining the connectors, pinout, and module form factors to be used for plug-in modules to manage underlying hardware of a device. This sub-project provides a group for the Run BMC specification, which has been contributed to OCP, and the DC SCM specification. All projects have written charters that state what is and what is not in scope for the group to work on. It is normal for these charters to be updated as the project matures and moves forward in time. Recently, the Telco, Open Edge, Hardware Management, and Data Center Facilities Group have made updates to their charters. Each project has their charter listed on their wiki page for review if you're interested in reviewing those. So that's all I had to cover today, and thank you for listening. If you're not currently involved in an Open Compute project, please get involved in one or more of the 29 projects that we have to offer. If you are currently involved, get a friend or colleague to join and participate as well. Thank you for your time, and have a great Tech Week.